Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're busy, and it's always nice to have people come on. We had one of the NFL Super Bowl champs, Danny Sorensen, on the other day. So we're seeing a lot of athletes that are kind of adopting sort of a more of a sort of a meat-based diet. But let me just give you a minute, because for some people that may not be familiar with you, you're a professional wrestler in the WWE. I imagine that was a long road to get there. Knowing what I know about wrestling, so can you just kind of go through the background on how I mean, I assume maybe you're an athlete growing up as a kid, and then you shifted into wrestling. Can you give us a little background info?
Sure. I was an athlete literally since I could walk. My mom actually tells a story that like I never learned how to walk. I went straight from crawling to running. And I never stopped. I mean, I played every sport I could when I was a kid. I ran track, I played baseball, I played basketball, I played football. As soon as we kind of got to a place where I could play tackle football, I started playing tackle football, and that was actually my first love. We played tackle football on the street. We played football, wherever. And then when I was in 5th grade, I got into amateur wrestling. I was a huge wrestling fan. Like I grew up watching Hulk Hogan and like Andre the Giant, Macho Man. Me and my dad actually used to go to like a different church service than the rest of the family, so that we could come home and watch Sunday morning wrestling. But then like when I got into grade school, there was wrestling. Like I could go out to amateur wrestling. And it was the closest thing I could do to the WWF at that time. So I signed up. I was all in, and I got my butt kicked every single year, or every single match that first year. And I cried, and I came home, and I was in 5th grade, and I told my dad, like, I don't ever want to go back. I'm never going to wrestle again. And he just said, you're going to finish the season, and then you can quit. So I finished the season. I didn't win a match. And then the next year, same thing happened. I didn't win. I think I won like maybe 2 matches, but every day after practice, I don't know, like something like if you go away from pain, you forget how bad it was. So like the next year when wrestling came around, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it again. And then I, wanted to quit the whole season. And then once I hit junior high, I stopped losing. And I was like, not undefeated, but pretty much for like 2 or 3 years straight. And then, just wrestled the whole way through like 2 years of college. And I got into pro wrestling when I was a senior in high school. One of my assistant coaches his brother was a professional wrestler, so I hooked up with him. He trained me how to do it. He introduced me into like my first couple contacts, and then I just started spreading from there. But I did it independently, like with a very small income. I was basically paying to wrestle, like just like a small band, like that tours and pays for their own tours, and like does it because they're passionate about it. That's what I was doing with wrestling. I started in 2003. I didn't start making money till probably 2014. But I kept grinding and kept grinding. And then in 2014, I had a break, and then, it kind of took off. So, but yeah, I've been an athlete my entire life. And so it's,
some of the, and I've seen a lot of, particularly as, when you start out and there's some of these different, federations and leagues or different ways to kind of make your way up to, I guess where you reach the sort of the quote unquote big time. But, you see some of the, whether it's, the sort of, smaller crowds, they kind of have some more outrageous stuff. There's people that are just really like, really beating themselves up pretty bad. I mean, they're just trying to willing to show how much pain and suffering. I see people that like, just have people hit them with, all kinds of stuff. Did you have to do some of that stuff on the way up? I mean, I guess when you get to a point when you're WWE and you're trying to, you've got, there's a lot more financial stuff going into that they have to sort of take care of the athletes a little better. And I think it seems like the ones that are coming up kind of maybe don't get that much protection, I suppose. Is that something that's realistic, or?
It's definitely something that's realistic. Like there's like a niche group or fan base that like follows like deathmatch wrestling. And actually that's how Sarah got her start. She started her first 2 years as a deathmatch wrestler, and like she's drop dead gorgeous. So like most of the guys who do deathmatch wrestling, aren't the best to look at. You know what I mean? Like wrestlers are pretty ugly anyways. So, you know, like big, ugly, sweaty, hairy guys, you know, slicing themselves open and bleeding. And here's this like 18-year-old girl that's a knockout, that's doing the same thing. And she's going through plate glass windows. I never did. I kind of stayed away from it just by choice. I definitely had some opportunities where I could have, you know, but we were definitely kind of like, going real hard, and, you know, hitting each other real hard. And like, we were very like trying to follow this like strong style, in your face, especially when on these smaller crowds. Cause like, you're 5 feet away from somebody. And like, I kind of had this mentality when I was younger in my career, and I still do, but like, there was a famous quote that said, "I'll never convince the world that wrestling is real, but I'll die convincing you that I am." And I kind of took that as a point of pride. And like, I've had multiple times throughout my career where like someone has come up to me and been like, "Hey, like, I know that like some of this stuff is scripted, or I know that this is, you know, this is entertainment, but I saw you trying to kill that guy today. Like, you were trying to hurt him." And like, I take that with a big point of pride that like, absolutely, like, you know, if I can make someone suspend their disbelief, because people go in and they're like, "Oh, it's all phony." Like, they don't understand the risks or the dangers or the athleticism that goes into wrestling, and goes into to sports entertainment, professional wrestling, whatever you want to call it. Like, it is entertainment. It is scripted. We are doing a physical drama. However, there's real risks. There's real damage. There's real, you know, aches and pains and all kinds of stuff that, you know, sacrifices you make. But like, if I can, people understand that they know it's scripted, but if I can make them, even for a couple seconds, forget, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, and that's something that, I mean, I guess some people don't realize that, you know, and I'm always impressed with the athleticism. You know, I mean, you got big guys that are, you know, 200, 250, you know, sometimes 300 pounds up there doing basically gymnastic type stuff, which is, you know, incredibly explosive. So talk about, so I mean, I can't imagine you haven't been injured, at least to some degree, in the many years. What kind of, you know, what kind of injuries or things or physical problems that you have in doing this stuff? I mean, and again, it's describe this. I mean, the day-to-day life. I mean, I know it's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of just night after night after night. So what goes into that?
It's best described as like a grind. I think that there was some kind of scientific study done a couple years ago, and they equated like the physical toll of like an average professional wrestling match with being in like a 35-mile-an-hour car wreck. Just like trauma and hitting the mat and trauma and hitting the mat. So like an average week of in the life of someone in the WWE is, I would fly out Friday morning. I would fly to whatever city, let's say it's Pittsburgh. Then I would have a non-televised show that night. So I'd usually get into town, rent a car, go to the gym, then go to a non-televised show where we have a match. Then the next night is probably somewhere in a 300-mile radius. So we drive after the show overnight to the next town. You know, crash in a hotel, get some sleep. You wake up the next morning, you get another workout in. You go to that town, you do the show on Saturday, you drive again another 300 miles, you have a show on Sunday, you have another match, then drive to where you're going to do TV on Monday, and then on Monday you have a TV match, and then you're finally going to fly home Tuesday morning after all that stuff. And then kind of recover. You got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday back. You're right back out on the road on Friday. And like, it's a definite grind, like just anything else. Like, there's no off season. There's no, you know, with NFL players, they have whatever 17 weeks, then playoffs. You know, the NFL and Major League Baseball, everybody has an off season. Wrestling doesn't have an off season. We're constantly on the road. We're constantly traveling. We're constantly, you know, on that grind. So like, that's why like diet and fitness and being in good shape and recovering from injuries is so important. Like, I mean, personally, like, I've had injuries, like I've, you know, broken ribs. I'm right now wrestling with turf toe. Like, turf toe is something that would like take an NFL running back out of the season. Like, he'd lose his entire season with, you know, turf toe. I had turf toe and I missed one match, and I was right back into the schedule. I've been continuing to wrestle on pay-per-view and television. Like, you figure out ways to work around this stuff. You know, my biggest injuries ever have been, I was in a motorcycle wreck in 2014 that, you know, that's an entire different conversation. Like, I shattered my arm and lacerated my eye, but like, I was back in the ring in 6 months. Like, you figure out how to work around this stuff. Like, you know, like, a lot of common injuries are just like common, like in football or anything. Like, people, you know, end up with a lot of shoulder problems or, you know, joints, knees. Like, I've been fairly lucky, and my knees and shoulders are good. My ankles and my stability are really, really good because both my wife and I believe very strongly in wearing minimalist shoes, and like barefoot style shoes, so that our feet are actually being feet, and we're not, you know, walking on essentially like high heel tennis shoes or anything like that. Like, I started having knee problems, and I switched to minimalist shoes, and it's changed everything. Like, I think along with carnivore diet or meat-based diet, like, the more, like, your body is designed to do a certain thing. It's designed to be, it's really good. It's been taken millions of years to get this body how it's supposed to do. And that goes with your digestion, that goes with your sleep and your recovery, but it also goes with things like walking. We were evolved to walk and run in a certain way. And like, we have modern shoes that kind of hurt our feet and change our gait and change our posture. And like, your body, like, you got to get out of your body's way and let it do what it does. I think for us, it goes hand in hand like that, like trying to get back to a more primal existence, like with what we eat, with what we wear, with how we move. And we've been healthier because of it.
Yeah, let me ask you, and I don't disagree at all with you about that, you know, and unfortunately, you know, broken glass and stuff like that, you know, is not, and concrete was not something we evolved on either. So you have to kind of navigate that stuff too. But certainly, yeah, I think that the way our feet are designed is clearly not to have shoes on them. But let me ask you about, you know, getting to the WWE. I mean, how did that occur? I mean, I'm sure that was a big accomplishment for you. And then how do you stay in the dang thing? Because I mean, just like any high level sport, I mean, I'm sure there's a, you know, I'm sure there's guys that come in and go out, and I don't know what the life expectancy of a WWE wrestler is as far as how long their career lasts, but what goes into getting in and staying in?
Everybody kind of has their own story about like how they ended up in the WWE. Some guys were recruited out of college. Some guys came over from the NFL or like different, you know, various professional sports. I kind of came up with like the more like traditional grassroots way, where I started wrestling in 2003. In 2014, I ended up with a company called Ring of Honor, which is like another international brand. And that was like my first time when I was a full-time wrestler. Ring of Honor opened the door for us. They had a working relationship with a company called New Japan Pro Wrestling. And my tag team partner and I ended up working full-time for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And New Japan is what changed my career forever, because they are without question the number 2 company on the planet. There's some other, there's a competing company right now, AEW, that started within the last year, and they're on I think TNT. They're doing wonderful things for sports entertainment, professional wrestling. They're definitely like growing, and they're providing opportunity for wrestlers that are not in the WWE. But I think they still have a ways to go before they're able to make a claim at that number 2 spot, which I think is New Japan. And like, everyone inside wrestling values Japanese professional wrestling. It's a style, and it's a culture, and it's a tradition that's very respected. It's everything that I wanted to do. When I wanted to go to Japan, and I wrestled from the very first day I started wrestling, and to be able to go there, that's how I got on WWE's radar. They knew my name, they knew who I was because I was wrestling in New Japan. We ended up winning the IWGP, which is the International Grand Prix Wrestling, International Grand Prix heavyweight tag team titles twice. They're like one of the most historic title lineages. The IWGP titles, there's, you know, heavyweight single titles and stuff. We won the tag team titles, and we did it twice. And after that, you know, we started talking with WWE, and my wife, who was just my girlfriend at the time, Sarah, was already signed in NXT. She was in the company, and so that kind of like, I was already living in Florida. They had a performance center in Florida. It just kind of worked out that like it was a more comfortable transition for me because she was already there. So like she kind of was able to talk to me about, you know, her experience. Like this is what I feel like, or this is how things are going for me. And like, so it was definitely an advantage that I had, because otherwise, like you don't know what it's going to be like when you start a new job or you go with a new company. Like you don't know what the culture is, or, you know, you only have hearsay. But, you know, the closest person that I had in the world was already there, so she kind of told me what her experience was, and kind of gave me that confidence that like, all right, no, I think we could do this. Like I think this might be the right move for us. And you know, we negotiated for a while, and there was a lot of rumors that we were gonna come in before we did, and then, you know, eventually we came over, and, you know, we just hit the ground running. So a lot of guys, it's such a hard thing to say like what career expectancy is. It really depends on a number of factors. One, if you can stay healthy. Like if you can stay healthy and performing, like the sky's the limit for you from a career standpoint. The other thing is like if the crowd connects with you, because like if the crowd, it's just like a movie star. Like you're not going to keep making movies with somebody if the crowd isn't buying what they're selling. So like because it's an entertainment based business, it's really, is the crowd responding to you? Are they interested in what you're selling? Are they buying what you're selling? Like are they reacting when you come out? Are you a good performer? You know, are you a troublemaker backstage? Like there's so many like different things that go into it. So it's like it's hard to say like how long someone could do. I know that I would be very happy if I'm able to stay with WWE through the rest of my career. I've been incredibly happy and incredibly proud that like we got signed, we came in, we won tag titles in NXT. We got called up to the main roster to WWE Raw. We won a titles there as well, like within our first year on the roster. Like and it just seems like we just keep gaining momentum. We just keep gaining momentum every week, every month. So I want to ride this as long as we can. Like I'm all in on the WWE family. I think this is the best wrestling company that I've ever been a part of, and I'd love to retire from the company.
Yeah, I wish you luck with that. Hopefully, you know, before I get into diet, I want to ask a little bit more about training. You know, because obviously there's some time dedicated to practicing, you know, the wrestling aspect of it, and then there's got to be the, you know, preparing the body. So what does your training look like? I know you said you're on the road. I guess you got to find a gym where you go, but I mean, what is it? What kind of training do you do? Is it just routine strength training, bench, squat, deadlift type stuff, or do you do more explosive type stuff? What does your training look like?
So my personal training is a lot more power based, like power and explosive based. I've actually just transitioned. I've you know, played around with some different like programming and stuff like that. My wife and I just started back on a program by Jim Wendler called 531. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's just a periodization, like a progressive overload, focusing on bench, squat, deadlift, and overhead press. To that, we add explosive movements. So like, you know, I'm not able to do them because of some of my injuries, but like, you know, she's doing snatches and cleans and stuff like that. I do a lot of kettlebell swings and, you know, explosive jumps and stuff like that. We also both train like in mixed martial arts. So we're doing a lot of bag work and grappling and jujitsu and stuff like that because that is both a passion for us, but it's also really good crossover. It's great conditioning. It's great kind of body lengthening. Like you're moving in odd positions and going strong from different things. So like I kind of mix it up, but like at my core, I basic classic powerlifting. I think is very important. I think the stronger you are, the less likely you are to get hurt. I think the stronger you are, the better you're able to recover, do everything else. So that you can't beat pure power. So that's kind of what I go, but I mean, obviously to that, like I've got to be smart with what I'm doing because wrestling is my number one priority. Like I can't worry about hitting a PR and then tear my shoulder out or, screw up my elbow. And then I'm not able to wrestle. So like, while saying that, there is that caveat. Like definitely I try to be as strong as humanly possible, but smart. Like, I know that I'm 35 years old. I've been wrestling for 17 years. Like I've got injuries. I got to work around it. So that's definitely for me. Some guys do different things, but I think what I'm doing works. I have a 17-year career. I've gone all over the world. Like for me, this is the training program that works.
Yeah, and I can't disagree. I mean, strength is always, an advantage. Now, if it comes with, a huge amount of, excess body fat and stuff like that, it may be a little bit of a detriment. But I mean, just strength on its own purely is always going to be protective. Let's talk about you transitioning to a meat-based or more carnivore-based diet. What sort of inspired you to do that? And does that, I mean, with your sort of quote wrestling persona, your character being a Viking, I mean, that's got to blend perfectly well. And so I don't know if that's gotten into the press or, if you're, here's this crazy Viking that eats a bunch of meat type of stuff. Has that made it into the sort of the drama part yet?
It hasn't really made it on screen so much. My partner's been famous for like eating like a truckload of turkey legs. So like, but I know that a lot of the guys backstage talk to me about my diet because they're very interested and they're very like curious, like because I've been pretty vocal about it. Like it's done wonders for me. I first kind of understood that the carnivore diet was a thing, like because Mark Bell was posting about it last year. And I like in last year being like, I think 2018, I think y'all do like World Carnivore Month, like in January. And I remember reading about it and being really curious, but at the time, like, I don't know that I wasn't convinced, but I just was like, well, I'm kind of doing this other thing. I'm counting macros. It's working for me. But like, it was kind of in the back of my mind. And I kept like, I'd see an article and I'd read about it. And I'm like, man, like that really, I don't know. I feel like there's something to that. And then this past year, I started on January 1st when, everybody was doing World Carnivore Month again. And Mark Bell was talking about it. And I listened to your podcast from a couple years ago with Joe Rogan. I got your book. I got Paul Saladino's book. And I went all in. I said, you know what? I've been wondering about it. I've been thinking about it. I've been reading about it, but I haven't been doing anything. I said, what can I possibly lose by doing it for a month? I think that challenge base is a really cool thing because it was like, the worst that's going to happen is I'll eat this way for a month and I'll go, wow, that wasn't for me. What happened? I started eating that way. And like, it took maybe like 8 days for like my stomach to kind of normalize to it. I don't think I was used to that level of dietary fat. And, I had like sugar withdrawals for the first like 3 or 4 days, which was eye-opening, like really kind of scary that like that was just my normal life and I had gotten used to it. But then like I didn't even care that I was losing weight. Like I felt better. I felt so much better. I was able to sleep better. I was, I'd always kind of had problems. I'd always have problems like falling asleep or staying asleep. And I tried melatonin and I tried, all kinds of other stuff. But like in that first month, I lost a bunch of weight. I felt more refreshed every day when I woke up. I was getting stronger in the gym. I was able to lift Like I didn't see any problem, because that's what I was worried about. Like when I first, like I was like, oh my God, no fiber, or like no carbs, like I'm gonna lose all my strength gains, and none of that happened. So like it was crazy to me that I had waited so long. Like I was kind of like, man, like I wonder what my body would look like, or I wonder how much different and better I would feel if I had started this last year when I first got excited about it. But like it was crazy, and like I mean I don't really have to tell you all that much, but like just how much my daily life was changed. And like for me, like traveling, like I just have to be a little smarter now. Like when I travel, like, and this is obviously before the pandemic, like our travel schedule isn't as extreme right now. We're just going to Florida like once a week or once every other week to film for TV. And then I pack meals, or I stay somewhere with a kitchen and I'm able to cook my own meals. I pack like my, I'll bring like little salt things, or I'll pack like a little cast iron so I don't have to worry about like a crappy skillet at the hotel. But like I just am a little smarter and I plan ahead. Or when other times I would go out to a restaurant and I'd order 2 steaks, and like people are like, wait, what, you don't want anything else? I'm like, nope, yeah, this is good for me. So like there's a lot of wrestlers have been asking me about it. They've been asking Sarah about it, because like she saw the results that I had, and that's when she decided to start. Like she didn't start till maybe February, because I was already like solid for that first month. I was like, man, I'm all in. So did I lose you? Sorry. So I was just I was all in, and then she was like, well, I'm gonna try it for a couple weeks and see what happened. And she was kind of blown away. She's had like a lot of digestion issues, and like has a lot of allergies, and like she noticed that her allergies were better on carnivore, and she didn't have any of the digestion issues that she was having prior to that. So like it's crazy how much that's cleared up, and that's just improved. So like I've now talked to Sarah's mom. Sarah's mom is going full carnivore. She's lost a ton of weight. Like she's lost almost like 40 pounds now. She can like get up and down out of chair. She can move around. She's running around now, like feeling better. She's coming to work out with us in the gym. I think you talked to her for a little while, and definitely like opened her eyes and like made her see like because doctors had been trying to give her all kinds of like different medications, and like just changing her diet has changed that. Like her husband's gone carnivore. He's dropped a bunch of weight. Like it's crazy that like, because people like Sarah and I, like once it started working for us and we talk to people, they can see like we're passionate and they can see that we believe in it. So they're like, well, maybe there's something to that. Maybe I should try it, or maybe I should, maybe we should check that out. And like it's kind of having like this little ripple effect just in our personal lives. And like I have a feeling that there's going to be more than a couple wrestlers that have continued to ask me about it. And like the longer I'm on this, the more people have kind of asked me about it. And a couple of my hunting buddies are going to try it. I think they're starting this month. So they're just like, man, you always talk about this. Like, what's it all about? So I send out, I've given away probably 6 or 8 copies of your book already. So it's, I don't know. It's just something that like, for me, like I felt stupid for not doing it sooner.
Well, one, thanks for sharing the book. I appreciate that. But let me ask you, just from the athletic standpoint, talk about recovery a little bit, because many people on the diet notice improvements in recovery. They don't feel as beat up or as inflamed. Is that something you've noticed as well?
100%. I feel like I'm recovering, like I'm sleeping. I think I kind of touched on it. Like I used to have sleeping problems, like where I couldn't stay asleep. I sleep deeper and better. Even if I don't sleep as long, I wake up feeling better. I don't, I don't feel like dragging or beat up when I wake up. I'm waking up, I'm ready to go. I've felt like I can work out longer. I feel like I have more energy levels. And like the real tell was after that January, because it was my first time going like pure carnivore and like cutting everything out. I was like, well, I'm gonna have something that I haven't had in a while. And I ate some something breaded or something, with some carbs and sugars in it. And I felt like garbage, like just garbage. And then I couldn't sleep that night. I was having trouble going to the bathroom. And the next day I felt like my joints were sore and I was achy and pain. And I was in the gym and I was like, oh man, like my muscles hurt, my joint. And I was like, oh my God, like it's what I'm eating. Like it's that, like it was, if I'm eating clean, then I feel clean. And I feel like I'm operating on like high octane fuel. And like every time since then that I've been like, well, it's somebody's birthday, I'll have a piece of cake. And the next day I hurt and my joints hurt, my fingers lock up and so it's just crazy that like, you don't think like most people don't think about that, or most people aren't very conscious of the effects that everything you put in your body has. And like, when I'm meat based, like it's a complete game changer. And like specifically for what I do, I can't imagine wrestling for the next fucking 15 years without going carnivore. Like there's no way. Like eventually the injuries are going to start piling up, but I feel like 5 or 6 years younger than I did before I started the diet.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people that, they just feel like you take some of the mileage off the body, that constant inflammation that you have that is related to diet, which is kind of interesting. What about, because one of the sort of knocks people say is, well, you can't be explosive without carbohydrates. I mean, have you found any loss of speed, strength, power since going carnivore?
Absolutely not. I feel more explosive. I feel more powerful. Like I train every 4 or 5 days a week in explosive power movements. I'm moving heavier weight than I was prior because I don't have the same level of soreness and joint pain. So like before, where I wouldn't feel confident that like I could really push something, or I could, my knee, my something would be hurting or aching. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to go quite so heavy. Now I'm not having those same joint pains. I'm not having those same, muscle aches or whatever. So I'm like, screw it, put another plate on the bar. Like, let's push it. And like explosive, like I definitely feel lighter when I'm full carnivore. Like I've not noticed any bloating or inflammation or dietary or like digestion issues. Whereas like anything that I with my other diets, I was always bloated. I was always feeling like I wasn't eating enough, or I was worried so much about the numbers. So I would like overeat. I was like, oh my God, I need, 100 more grams of carbs today, according to my macro counter. So like I would overeat, and then I'm bloated for like 2 days. And then I don't want to eat the next day. And then, now it's like, if I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not, I don't eat. So like, I feel great before I eat. I feel great after I eat. Like, it's crazy. And like anybody who thinks that like you're not explosive or can't be powerful, like has never tried the diet. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my experience as well. Let me ask you, if you don't mind, Raymond, how much do you weigh, and how much what's your daily like food intake generally look like? I'm sure it's going to vary a little bit, but what's kind of a day look for you?
Sure. So when I started carnivore, I was like 257. And I am now down to like 235, between 230 and 235. So I've dropped a significant portion of body weight, and none of it has been muscle. It's all been like, inflammation and stuff like that. So I kind of stay in that 230 to 235 range. And I personally feel better when I fast. A lot of mornings I'm not hungry. So I usually don't have my first, I like to train in the morning. So I get up and I train. But I like to have my first meal, and it's, we eat a lot of venison in our house. We're big hunters. So a lot of days, like I'll eat eggs and venison as breakfast, and breakfast might be anywhere between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. depending on how I'm feeling, or what the flow of the day is. If I get busy and I'm working on the farm, like Sarah and I have a farm where we've got, I don't know, 20 20 chicken, or no, we got 30 chickens and 3 cows. So like if we're doing something with the animals, like, yeah, I'll just get busy and I won't eat because I'm not hungry. I'm moving, and then I'll eat real big. But like typically I'll eat, you know, anywhere between 6 and 8 eggs and like, I don't know, probably 6 to 12 ounces of ground venison. And then for dinner, I'll eat like a couple hours later, or sometimes 3 or 4 hours later, I'll eat anywhere between a pound to 2 pounds of ribeye steak. I've noticed, and like Sarah talks about it a lot, that like she used to only want to eat New York strips. New York strips was her favorite cut of steak. She didn't really like the fat. I've always been a ribeye guy. Even before carnivore, that's always been my favorite cut of steak. But I notice now that I really crave the fat. And that's something that Sarah talks about too. Like she'll be cutting the steak and literally just grabbing pieces of fat and eating it as like, she's like, oh man, this is so good. Cause like you think about, your body is telling you, like after you kind of clean your system out, your body is telling you what it needs. So like, if you need that energy, it's telling you, hey, like we've been working hard. We need some fat. We need that energy. We need those calories. So like, it's definitely, it's a ribeye, almost every night. That's part of why like we started raising cattle, because we want to know not only that like we're eating carnivore, but we're eating the best possible ingredients, because we'll know what our, you know, it's not just that you're eating the best food, it's that your food is eating the best food. So like we like our cattle is grass fed. They're going to be grass finished. Like we're going to be able to know nose to tail, like from birth to death, like exactly what these animals have had the best life possible, and they've eaten what they're supposed to, so that when we eat them, we can eat what we're supposed to. So it's kind of that big thing. But like I don't know, like sometimes some days like more, you know, if I'm real hungry, or if maybe you know I fasted for longer, I might eat 2 or 3 steaks like in one sitting. But typically it's eggs and venison, or it's eggs and bacon, or you know something like that, and then it's almost always steak. Sometimes it's, you know, it's like a venison backstrap or something like that. But if I go a day without eating ribeye, I'm shocked.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I have red meat with pretty much every single meal. I've done that for getting close to 4 years now. So it's been, I definitely understand that. And yeah, I think the fat, when you cut the carbs out, you got to get energy from somewhere. And particularly as you get leaner and leaner and you don't have as much body fat to draw on, you kind of do. You know, when you, so I guess as part of the wrestling, whether it's in the actual performance or in the training, have your training partners, with people you wrestle with, noticed a difference in how you're performing? Can you tell when somebody's on and off, you know, type when you're wrestling with somebody?
You can definitely tell, like if someone's feeling good or feeling, you know, what I've noticed, or what people have commented on more is just my appearance. Because they can see my clothes are fitting different. We basically wrestle in our underwear. You know, so you can just see, like, you can see that I'm leaner, but I'm stronger. You know, you can kind of, I have a reputation for being one of the stronger wrestlers out there. So that's definitely something that, you know, if I had gone carnivore and I lost strength, people would have noticed that, but that's not the case. You know, so I just, I'm able to kind of continue that. And like, but I've gotten, and that's usually how that conversation starts. People are like, man, you look great. What are you doing? What are you doing different? You know, what have you done different to change? Cause I've kind of been like plateaued. Like when I was counting calories, when I was counting macros, I was kind of doing this, like my body looked the same for about 5 or 6 years. But then I started carnivore, and all of a sudden there was a huge change, and people noticed. So like they definitely could tell, and they, you know, I don't know. I think it's a visual thing more than like when we're in there, like, you know, they're I don't think I've dropped off or in any way, shape, or form. So like, and like Sarah's the one I train with the most, so she can definitely tell, and I think that's why she decided to try the diet. Like she saw the difference in the gym, she saw the difference in my daily life, so she was like, well, if there's something there, let's try it. And you know, she tried it and hasn't looked back either.
I'm just guessing, and I don't know for sure, but it seems like the wrestling and the wrestling demographic, there's probably not as many people that are sort of buying into the sort of the plant-based stuff, which we see some other athletes. Are there a lot of like plant-based vegan wrestlers, pro wrestlers out there? Is that becoming a thing, or is that, or is what you're doing considered not as crazy?
So because it's such a diverse group of people. There's definitely some vegans or plant-based wrestlers. Some of the guys have been doing it for a while, and they seem like it's kind of working for them. I've had various conversations with them about about their diet or whatever, but like I'm kind of in the like, hey, if it makes you happy, like sure, go ahead. But like there's not many, but there are I don't know, probably the same proportion of anything. I don't think that wrestling kind of lends itself to a plant-based diet. I know a lot of those guys um, have problems when they're traveling because it's really hard to maintain that diet when you're traveling, because there's not a lot of the options or whatever. But like I don't know, I can't imagine being able to recover on that plant-based kind of system. But like there's I don't know, I can think off the top of my head of a handful of them that are at that like kind of top level, that are plant-based as well. I there hasn't been any blowback yet, like some of the Major League Soccer guys that you're seeing where like they're getting hurt and they're not being able to recover, and like the teams are actually blaming their diets for it publicly. I don't know that's happened in wrestling yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if eventually that happens.
Is there within your contract? I was interested when like I said, I was talking with somebody from the NFL, and they said they're not contracted to eat a particular diet or anything like that, but they have to maintain a certain body weight at position. I mean, is there anything about like when you're in the W, they're like, we don't want you to get super huge and fat, or you can't get too skinny, or is there anything in your contract that says you have to maintain a certain level of physique?
So it doesn't say like specifically like weights or anything like that, but in it's our responsibility to be responsible for our appearance, both with our like in-ring gear, what we wear to the ring, how we are visually presented, how we look, how our bodies look. That's our responsibility. So like if you get hired and you're in great shape, and then a year later you let yourself get real fat, chances are they can let you go at any time, for any number of reasons. But there's definitely a clause in the contract that talks about like it's the wrestler's responsibility to maintain their appearance, maintain their gear, their costume, whatever people want to call it. Like that's definitely like our responsibility. It's not the company's responsibility to make sure that we're eating correctly. And like you can tell, like there's been a number of people who can't handle the grind. Like they might look great, and then they come up to the roster, and then they can't handle the grind. They can't continue eating how they need to on the road, or like they're not recovering. So you can see their physique kind of going down. And that's in all wrestling companies. That's not exclusive to WWE. Like if you can't keep up, if you can't kind of maintain that physique or maintain that thing, it's going to be noticeable.
Do you, as hunters, and now as people that are vocal about eating a meat-based diet, are you getting any pushback on social media or anything like that? Are you getting people saying, how dare you, so on and so forth?
We get a ton of pushback online from people who will say, how dare you hunt? How dare you kill an animal? But that at the same time, these people are eating a cheeseburger. So like it's Sarah gets it worse than I do, where people will just be really, really nasty, or really, really disrespectful with the things that she says to her. And like sometimes like the protective side in me kicks up, and I go to like respond to them, and then 5 or 6 different fans have already like stuck up for Sarah, like, shut up, dude, like you eat meat too, or you know, whatever, like, and like the simple fact is life eats life. Like, you know, even if you want to eat plant-based, you're still killing you're still killing something. You have to survive, and like every living thing eats living things. But like for us, like we try to be as responsible as we can. Like we want to know where our food comes from. We want that, like that organic, you know, wild caught organic meat. So like we go and hunt, and we try to do it responsibly, and we try to do that stuff, and people are going to have a problem with it. And they're very vocal, but especially on social media, like that's our platform. So we're going to bring that positive message. We're going to keep talking about hunting in a positive way. We're going to keep talking about homesteading and farming in a positive way. We're going to keep talking about being meat-based in a positive way. And if people really don't like it, they don't have to follow us.
Yeah, amen to that. I mean, you know, you get some people that just kind of, you know, they don't have to be there. They come on your page, you know, of their own volition, and
they're crazy.
Talk about just the positive aspects of hunting, because a lot of people don't understand how it can actually help the animal population. Can you talk a little bit about that? I'm sure you've
Sure.
looked into that.
Oh yeah, specifically for white-tailed deer, which is our like primary hunting passion. If left unchecked, because there's not like big predators in most of North America anymore. There's not packs of wolves going through the Midwest. You know, there you've got to seek these things out. There's not a lot of bears throughout, you know, Kentucky, and where there used to be all kinds of predators where that would help control the population of white-tailed deer. Now there's not. We've eliminated most of those predators as urban situation, or you know, as urban sprawl has happened. We don't want, you know, packs of wolves running through the suburbs. We have no problem with packs of deer. So herds of deer will just overpopulate. And if you don't cull their numbers, if you don't kill a certain amount of deer every year, they will literally just continue to overpopulate, and they will starve themselves out. They will eat all of their resources, and they'll end up starving and dying by the thousands. So like the American hunter is a conservationist, because we're able to cull a certain amount from the herd, and we're able to feed ourselves, feed our family, and repurpose everything from that animal. The rest of the species is able to thrive. So like if just left unchecked and they just ate their habitat, then like an entire herd would die, because there's no food for them to continue. But like if you take a certain percentage out, and it's very tightly controlled. You have to register each deer that you harvest. You have to be licensed. You have to have tags. You have to do all of these things, so that it's a very strict, controlled number and percentage every year. And your numbers, your limits, and your tags change every year based on hunter surveys, conservational surveys, wildlife surveys. So based on the number of deer in the habitat, there's scientists, or you know, whoever who do calculations and figure out, okay, well, this, based on this herd size, we can let out tags on this percentage of the population. And each year it's a moving target, so it switches and it fluctuates. And the other thing that like people who don't hunt or anti-hunters don't understand is that the money that goes into hunting tags and licenses and draw lotteries and all kinds of like hunting expenses are like 75% of the conservation budget in the United States. So there's no national park system without hunting. There's no like conservation or like wildlife prevention or studies or all of these things that help everything, that help the entirety of the ecosystem outside of the cities without hunting. Hunting funds all of that. Like any wildlife protection or wildlife research or wildlife conservation is funded primarily by hunting, which is something that people just don't understand. So they're like, how do you and they ask us all the time, like, how can you kill this animal that you say you love? And like my answer to that is, if we didn't love it so much, we wouldn't kill it. Like, we love the white-tailed deer. We're actually in the process of like of creating a better habitat for them on our farm, so that we can grow the herd. There can be more, there can be an easier, better habitat and lifestyle for them, so that they'll have a better life. Like, we will also benefit from that, because we'll be able to hunt them and feed our families and stuff like that. But like, it's just such a, it's a symbiotic balance. Like, without the wildlife, we're not able to feed our families. Without us, those wildlife are not going to be protected or conserved or taken care of, and like, they'll end up eating themselves out, or they'll end up becoming nuisance animals, and like, they'll be wandering onto highways and getting hit by cars and trucks and in greater and greater numbers, and they're going to start killing people when that happens. So like, because people will say, like, in areas where they don't want hunting, like, they have to hire professional marksmen and to come in and thin deer numbers when they start overpopulating, or when they start causing traffic fatalities. Like, so and a lot of those places then get donated to food banks and stuff like that. So like, they're not just like killing them and letting them rot away, but like, it's always comes back to hunting. You have to hunt certain populations of animals or to manage them, because there's no predators, there's no circle of life that manages them, their health and their well-being.
Yeah, I saw some stuff about, when they reintroduce, wolves. I saw it in Yellowstone. I know that's controversial, but that really generally is thought to improve the ecosystem just by having that natural balance there. And if we can't do that, we have the hunter. Let me ask you about, as a couple in the WWE, and I don't know how many other married wrestling couples there are in that organization, but do they somewhat take that into account? And are you guys often scheduled in the same venue so you can travel together, or is that completely, or do they not accommodate you with that?
They definitely try to accommodate that. Like, most of the couples who are married, like, definitely try to work. Like, WWE looks at itself as a family, and the roster looks at itself like a family. And they try. It doesn't always work out that way. And like, Sarah was actually just recently, the beginning of the pandemic, her and 50 other wrestlers were actually released from the company. So she's no longer actively part of the company. So she's been home, and she and I just started a YouTube channel called The Wild and Free TV. So she's actually been doing that and documenting her MMA training, her lifting, her carnivore lifestyle, her hunting, us building this homestead. So that's what kind of she's been focusing on while I've continued to wrestle. So like, but WWE is definitely good about it. There's I don't know, a handful of married couples, and they try whenever possible to keep them together and keep them, because if you're happy and I don't know, if you're happy, you're going to produce better. So like, if you're traveling with your spouse, you're going to be happier. You're going to be, you're going to be more productive for the company in the long run. So when it works for creative, they definitely did. They took great care of Sarah and I when we were together. We were on the same brand, Raw. Like, for a while, like, I have about a year, she was on Raw and I was in NXT. But then once I came up to the main roster, we were both on Raw. We both had a lot of travel loops together and stuff like that. We got to go to Germany and England together, and like, it was I don't know, it was awesome traveling with her, and WWE was wonderful trying to keep people together.
How did you, I mean, you talking about the farm and the homestead. Was that something, I mean, had you had any experience on that before? I mean, how did you get started in that? Was it just a kind of a cluster to get started, or did it go pretty seamlessly, or how did you get into that?
So I grew up in the city of Cleveland. I have zero clue how to farm, how to hunt, really. Sarah grew up on a farm. On her family came from a farming family. She came from a hunting family. So when we got together, we have been on this kind of never-ending quest to get healthier and live closer to the land. She got me into hunting. It's been her dream to have a farm. I never thought I would have a farm. I never thought I would live on a farm or be happy on a farm. But like, it's been a process for us to kind of kind of get that way. And I think that might be part of like the draw of like the YouTube channel, because we're filming everything, like doing this farm, is that like I'm a complete amateur at all this stuff, so I'm gonna screw up all the time. She's definitely like the one kind of leading that charge, but like but she's learning too, like, because there's a bunch of stuff that we're doing for the very first time, like in either of our families. But like for me, I got passionate about it because we can hunt on our own land. We can raise cattle how we want on our own land. So like for us, like we eat so much beef, like it made sense to us to, and like most commercially available beef is corn fed. Corn, cows are ruminants. They're not supposed to eat corn. But we can provide them grassland, pasture. We can make sure that they have the best possible food. So like for me, it was a decision to improve not only our health and our food directly, but the food and the health for our entire family and our extended family. Like I'm in the middle of 5 kids. Both parents are still around. Sarah's parents are both still around. She's got an older brother that she's still real close with, a couple other brothers that like, live further out. But like, if we're able to grow this cattle, this cattle fold and provide the healthiest possible meat for not only us, but our family as well, like that's something that we want to do. And that's something that like, she's definitely led that charge. And like, we're making mistakes all the time. We're learning as we go. And it's definitely something that like, there's definitely some learning curves and we've been taking some lumps, but like, it's going smoother than I thought it would. And it's something that we're both passionate about. So and like, thankfully, like, not thankfully, but like with being able to be home during a lot of this pandemic, like we've had a lot of time to focus on the farm, and we've had a lot of time to, kind of put time in and put the hours in and put the work in. Neither one of us are afraid of hard work. So like, it kind of works that like, we just, we do this together. It's something that we're both passionate about. Like she opened my eyes to it, but like, I've just kind of dove in head first. And it's something that's already given back to us. So like, it's exciting. I'm excited to see it keep growing.
Yeah, I was just going to wonder with the travel that you guys were doing, obviously before she left, but I mean, how were you, did you have somebody helping with the animals at that point? Or did you have somebody that kind of mentored you guys on this sort of getting the farm started?
So the guy who we actually purchased the farm from, his family lived here for a really long time. He still lives like very close in the area. And he's been awesome and wonderful, helping us kind of like get the farm rolling. He's over, a couple times a week, just helping out. He looks after the property if we're not here. But my family is also really, really close to here. So like my little sister, my mom and dad, my little brother come over all the time, and like, they're helping us if we're traveling or if we do something. We wouldn't have gone full forward with the farm if Sarah was still full-time with the company. We wouldn't have gotten cows yet. But like, with her being released, we've kind of been wanting to do this. So it was like almost the excuse, like, hey, let's pull the trigger. Let's get this done. Let's get this started. So that we were able to kind of grow our own food. Because she's going to be home more now. When we're gone, we definitely have family that step in and help us out. We're going to take a hunting trip here before too long, and we'll have different members of our family that have already volunteered. Like, hey, you need me to come over and take care of the chickens and the cows? Like, and the cows are real easy. They're pretty, they're pretty much self-sufficient. Like, we've got them on pasture. So as long as they don't, jump through a fence, like they're pretty good. The chickens are the ones that need like daily checking on and making sure that they're good and opening their coop and closing their coop and stuff like that. But like, we're trying to make it a seamless process for when our family does come over and help out. Like, they're wonderful. Like our family watches our dog Roach if we travel. She's the star of the family. Like, everybody falls in love with her. She's a little pit bull rescue. And so we wouldn't be able to do this without our family. Like, it's definitely a collaborative effort that kind of everybody's been helping with.
Yeah, I mean, within the context of a carnivore diet, a couple cows and a bunch of chickens, you got your eggs, you got your beef, basically, and then you can get some deer as well. So you're almost completely self-sufficient. How much work, you know, I'm just wondering, like, if, because a lot of people in this audience, myself included, at some point think about one of these days I'm going to get a damn ranch or something and, and grow my own food, whether, via cattle. And it's like, how much effort is that? How much time does it take? And I mean, are you having fun with it? That's the other thing I want to ask.
We are having a ball. It's there's definitely like ups and downs, like, and we know that like there's going to be days when we're terrified of the day when a predator is going to get in with the chicken coop or something like that, and that's a real thing. Like that's scary. Like, so we know we're going to lose livestock. We're terrified of like one of the animals getting sick, or because we love the animals. We're out there every day with them, and we're interacting with them. We actually chose to get Scottish Highland cows because we live outside of Cleveland, Ohio. It gets cold as hell here. It gets rainy, it gets wet, it gets snowy, but these cows are evolved and designed. They're from the Scottish Highlands. They're like, Cleveland weather is not bad for them. So they're able to not only survive in this weather, but thrive in this weather. They're exceptional cows in grass fed and grass finished operation. A lot of cow breeds have kind of been like interbred and like selectively bred so that they're bigger and bigger and bigger, or they produce more and more and more milk, or whatever the case is, so that like they can kind of fit into commercial molds. They get real big real fast. You have to feed them grains to do that. We didn't want that. We were ready to do it a little slower, a little more natural, and because of that, they're a lot more self-sufficient. So that they're a heritage breed. Like the Scottish Highland cow goes back to the 6th century, where and like they don't need a doctor, they don't need vaccinations, they don't need artificial insemination. Like we can just kind of let the cows be cows and let them be healthier. So like what we need to do, like as far as a workload, they have a fresh water that's always there for them. But we set that up. Like there's a couple tanks that they have. They have pasture right now because it's during the spring, but like during the winter, we'll need to make sure that they have hay and silage available. So a couple times a week, taking a big hay bale out there. And that's really all we need to do with them. We could absolutely just let them on pasture and not interact with them. That's just not the type of people we are. We're out there every day, like hand feeding them, giving them alfalfa, like trying to pet them, trying to brush their coats and stuff. The chickens take, I don't know, probably an hour at minimum a day, because you gotta go out, make sure their feed is good, make sure their water is good, open the coop, let them out in the yard. Eventually they're too young right now to produce eggs, but like you're gonna eventually then be collecting eggs and stuff like that. We don't have meat birds, so we've only got egg layers, which is fine. Like Sarah and I aren't big chicken eaters. Eventually, if our family wants it, or if there's enough demand for it, then we'll probably get meat birds, and then we're doing all kinds of other stuff. But so we could eventually do that. I think next year we might get some pigs, but we want to make sure that we really have our cows and our chickens locked down, and we're good, and we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Like, because I think like a lot of people will just try to get like too big too fast, and then you're maxed out with everything you want to do, and like we don't want to get in that situation. So we want to make sure we've got our feet under us. But it's not, the cows are like, cows know how to be cows. Like as long as you have a little bit of land and they're able to kind of do that thing, they're better at figuring out how to take care of themselves than we are. Like, a cow's not meant to grow up in a barn. It's not meant to grow up in a feedlot. These things are meant to, graze and forage, and like it knows how to do it. It knows what it needs to eat. It knows how much it needs to eat. As long as you got enough land for it, or enough grass for it. If you don't have the land, you only got like a half acre, you can still raise cows. You just need to provide supplemental feed. Then you would need to bring in hay, or bring in silage, or both. So like it's definitely something that like I think more people should get into. More people should be raising chickens in their backyard, getting eggs. There's no different. There is no comparison between a store-bought egg and a farm fresh egg. None. The taste is better. The nutrition is better. The quality is better. And like I know that this beef that we're going to eventually harvest is going to be the same way. There's no comparison whatsoever in store-bought versus farm raised.
Yeah, I've had a fair bit of Highlander beef, you know, and these cattle. They've got fur on them basically. They've got like long hair. It's kind of they're kind of
Yeah, they got huge
yeah.
horns. Like
Yeah.
they're adorable.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway, hey Raymond, I thank you so much for coming on. It's been a little over an hour, and I want to respect your time. But can you tell folks, you know, where they might find you? Maybe the YouTube Homestead channel, the social media stuff, so they can kind of find out more about what's going on with you guys.
Sure. My social media, both on Twitter and on Instagram, is Erik _ERIK _WWE. My wife is Sarah Rowe. That's Sarah with an H, Rowe with an E. But like the biggest way to find us, the biggest way to follow us is the Wild and Free TV. That's on Instagram, that's on Twitter, but it's most on YouTube. I think we've got like 10 or 11 videos up right now. It's we're doing we're following our life, we're following our training, we're following our farms, we're following our carnivore lifestyle, we're following, you know, shooting guns and archery and all kinds of other hunting stuff. It's the Wild and Free TV. It's on YouTube, it's on Instagram is where we're most active. Neither one of us are real big on Twitter, but we try to get up there and interact with people whenever we can. But that's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Hey, thanks again, Raymond. Appreciate it, and I wish you the best. And thanks for, you know, being vocal and you know, not being afraid to say you eat meat, because that's become almost a you know,
dirty word sometimes.
It's absolute insanity. But thanks again. I'm gonna shut this one down, guys. We'll see everybody tomorrow, and have a great day. Good talking to you, and hopefully see you again. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.